And I think it's kind of a, you know, an allegory. What is an allegory? It's just kind of
That's kind of what I play, is the allegory in it.
Well, it's just kind of like...
It has a dream aspect anyway.
Yeah, there's a feeling about it that it's kind of like... Surreal, yeah, and very surreal. And it just it goes from being kind of bad to worse. Insanity that kind of like borderlines on that kind of Saw-like mentality.
Yes.
It's
like that, but it's not.
It's a psychological, like, horror movie, and it's a psychological horror movie where people's minds.
But realistic, like that. If you were, don't you think, realistic in a really weird way?
Yeah.
In a sad way.
Yeah.
I mean, that we could all actually go there.
I can't wait.
I mean, some guys go there and some people don't go there. And that's like kind of the story. It's like, where would you be? Where would you stand? You know, where would you go if you were under the situation and you were under the gun? And it's like, I guess, this show that they have on TV is Survival. I mean,
Survivor. It is. I mean, it's not, you need to watch Survivor to see that it's nothing like that. But yes, in the sense that people sell each other out. They, you know, in order to win, they sell each other out. In order to be the sole survivor, yeah.
And that's kind of what this is about, who is going to survive this situation. You know?
Well, and it's interesting, like what you said about how they never really explain exactly what's going on. Because to me, some of the best movies out there, I mean, like I loved what Frank Darabont did with The Mist, where The Mist was just this background thing. It wasn't the story. The story was the people that were trapped together and what they were going to do to one another and how they were going to get out of it.
And again, if you were moved by The Mist, I mean, this will take you to a whole other level. Yeah. And The Mist is great, but this is it's like Sesame Street compared.
This is psychologically dark.
It's dark.
Yeah. It's really dark.
I mean, we knew what was happening. I was there for the whole shoot. I had one day on it.
I mean, The Mist, these guys are fighting off like, you know, bats and stuff.
And I was
flying around and what are we going to do? Oh my God, what do we, you know? And in this, you know, people are like, you know, chopping off fingers and, you know, dressing up like women and, you know, having homosexual sex, and I mean, it just gets really fucking nasty, you know, down there, you know, you know.
It's dark.
It's dark.
If I could, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about some of your more notable films that people are real big fans of. I mean, things like, I mean, obviously Terminator was a big jumping off point for you, because I think that was not only sort of the film that I think a lot of people really started to stand up and take notice of you, but it was also the beginning of you being connected with sci-fi, which was something that we saw you do a lot of sci-fi movies and things like that. When you were making that film, and you've both worked with James Cameron in different capacities.
Him a lot more, but
right.
Yes, I have worked with him. I did a series for him.
Dark Angel, which was a great series, great series.
And Jim was nothing but like classy and wonderful to me. Mm-hmm. But I had heard about him for years before that from Michael, so when I was up for that show, I had a lot of information about Jim, and I'd heard nothing but wonderful things from Michael about him.
Well, when you were working on Terminator, I mean, this is obviously very early in Jim's career, and he was coming from a background and doing mostly like special effects work and things like that. What was it like working with a young James Cameron, you know, who wasn't getting a lot of money thrown at him and was having to kind of make the most of what he had available and do a film that it was incredibly ambitious at the time? I mean, what was that experience like working with him from a younger standpoint, I guess?
Well, Jim was, yeah, you know, I got to know Jim real well because he cast me and we were getting ready to shoot the movie, and Arnold's option on Conan got picked up. So he had to go off and do Conan, so Jim and I got to spend 3 months together, you know, while he was prepping his movie. And so we would go out and, you know, he hired a judo teacher for me, or a, you know, taekwondo teacher for me, and, you know, getting me into shape, and I was already in shape, but better shape, and learning how to fight, and, you know, we would go out in the desert, and he'd pull out his, like, you know, like his 9mm and his AK-47s and his machine guns and his you know, I mean, everything, you know, and we would blow stuff up, and, you know, he'd show me how to hotwire a car, and then he'd take me down to Stan Winston's, you know, facilities, and he would show me the sketching and the drawings and how the Terminators were coming along, what the faces were going to look like, and how they were going to maneuver stuff. And so we got really, really close. And I mean, it's hard to, to really ever know, I liked Jim a lot, and I thought, like, man, this guy is like, this stuff looks really cool, man, and he knows how to blow up a car, and so that's great, but like his, previous film credit, was that he had been fired off of Piranha 3.
Right.
So it's kind of like, it's like, then, well, okay, like, who's producing it? Gail Hurd. Well, what's Gail done? Well, she works a lot for Roger Corman. So it's like, okay, all right. And who's starring in it? Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh, Arnold. Okay. Well, and at that time, Arnold was he was a massive star because he was Mr. Universe.
Right.
He was Mr. Universe, but and all the kudos in the world for being a great athlete. And they had done Pumping Iron, I think it was called, and got a little bit of acclaim or whatever. But he kind of barely spoke English. You know, he didn't really have much to say.
I think
He's got one very important line in that film, doesn't
I think he had done The Villain at that point too, maybe.
Somebody else told me he'd done something. That's all I'd know he'd done was.
But he barely spoke.
Pumping Iron and Conan, and I think there was that. So even at some point they were talking about
dubbed him over, or was that Andy McDowell? Something else.
Well, they dubbed Andy McDowell and Tarzan, but I think I don't know if they dubbed him. But anyway, he was not exactly considered a household, like, big time movie star. And I think that there were a lot of people that were kind of thinking, well, this is a dumb idea to put this bodybuilder in movies, And, he proved them all wrong. He turned around and made a star of himself out of the Terminator. Then he went on to do Predator and Twins. And, and his career took off. And, if anybody would have told me at the time, like, this guy is going to be like the biggest moneymaker, over the next 10 years. I would have been then the governor of California, probably like the leader of the universe here somehow, somewhere. I think Arnold's going to end up leading. He might not be president of the United States, but he'll be president of some place that'll have power over the United States.
He was just on TV.
He'll go back to Austria and become the president of Austria, and then just take over the world.
Yeah, he was just on TV saying something like, I'm not going to retire, and it's like.
It's
like not going to retire. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean you're going to keep acting, or does that mean you're going to keep like politicking until you take over the world?
Because he couldn't do any films.
It's relatively young guy. I think
Yeah.
he's about 60 years old or whatever. And I never understood why you'd want to get into being a governor in the first place.
You don't want to be the governor?
I don't even know what a governor does. To tell you the truth,